Just want to quickly shout out all of our partners and thank them so much for the support. Really does mean a lot to us and help us with our growth. Enhanced CBD, performance box supplements, Fortis Fightwear, Boho Jewellery, Core Hand Wraps, and Good to Go Recovery. We really do appreciate all the support you've given us over the past year and a bit. We'll have links to all of them in the episode description, and there'll be the codes to them all in there as well. Hello and welcome back to Super Necessary. Today I have the honour and the privilege of being able to say that joining us is former WBU and WBO Cruiserweight Champion of the World, Big Mac, Enzo Maccarinelli. What an honour. Absolutely delighted you could join us, Enzo. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem. It's our pleasure. We've got an absolute ton of questions to ask you because your career is just that extensive. There's so much to ask. So first of all, the way we always start, just let people know. What got you started with boxing? What was the attraction to that?
I didn't have much choice. My dad had me with my mother, and I think he basically had me because he wanted a fighter. They say fighters are born. I wasn't born. I was made. My dad made me to be a fighter, and it was hard at times, but from a young age, I loved getting into rucks. So here I am.
Nice. So when it happens, just you don't have a choice. You are being a fighter.
I honest to God, I hit 13. Obviously 13, 14, started going out with the boys on the weekends, up the park, drinking a bottle of white cider and stuff like that. But unless I trained, I wouldn't get my pocket money. So taught me the basics. We're going to work for what we get for.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's one of the key aspects people don't really see with boxing is it does teach you sort of your basics. You've got to work hard for everything you gain, and obviously you gained a lot from it, thankfully.
Yeah, it was for me best sport in the world. Like I said, I loved the fight. I hated my dad at times because of the fact that I was getting into girls and up the park having a joint now and again, and but without the pocket money, I wouldn't buy you nothing. So I had to train, I had to work hard, otherwise I wouldn't get
it. We did have a question there. I'm going to bring it back in now, knowing that you were I believe it was a brown belt in kickboxing. Was that something your dad said you had to do as well, or was that
no? It was a purple belt, and not many people know that. So fair play. Yeah, I got a purple belt. I don't know how I couldn't kick above my shin. Most of the tournaments I went to, I kept getting disqualified for close fist punching, obviously. But it was like it was just I was too young to box at the time, so my dad put me into something else. And I'll always remember one tournament. It was like a Christmas inter-club tournament, and I fought one year and I won all my fights. And I got to the final and I fought a girl, and I won it there. So I lost. The year after, I destroyed everyone, including the girl.
Lessons learned.
Yeah, at first she was a nemesis, and then I'm getting them next time. That's it.
100%.
So can you remember the moment when you realised you were ready to become a pro in the sport of boxing?
I always knew I could punch. I always knew I was strong. I was knocking out men at 14, and I mean professional fighters as well. I was dropping them in the gym. I was only 14, so I knew then I had something. Then I turned senior. I had 2 years out of the ring. I turned senior. And like I said, I boxed for 2 years. And my dad had a phone call, and he said, "Look, Mario, my dad's name was. He said, Mario, we got an open class heavyweight, elite heavyweight. We're looking for a heavyweight. Have we got any heavyweight?" He said, "Yeah, Enzo." He said, "Oh, you can't put Enzo in with him. He's 26. He's lost 1 in 30. He's dynamite." He said, "Yeah, Enzo, fight him." So, cut a long story short, we went there. It was an article in the local paper. Enzo, really good schoolboy, won British titles as a kid, but don't expect too much out of him tonight. he's really up against her. So I got in there, minute and 10 seconds, it was over. He was flat out on his face on the floor for about 10 minutes. So I had six senior fights, 6 wins, 5 first round spark cold knockouts, and 1 third round spark cold knockout. So I knew then, you know, I was just a danger.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's got to be mad to know, like, I can, like, put someone out. You know what I mean? Like, grown-ass men.
From a young age, I think my first knockout was 2013 Junior ABA Championships quarterfinals. I knocked a kid spark cold. So I was 13. I knocked a kid spark cold in the first 20 seconds of a fight. I mean, out cold, sleeping. It must be so frightening for his parents. Like,
yeah. But yeah, but adrenaline pumping through you. It's got to be like a good feeling as well.
Oh, it's an amazing feeling, but I've always been one of them. I never actually wanted to hurt anyone. I could. So people go back when I knocked Roy Jones out and I took a knee in the corner, and I've done that all my life. You know, I never wanted to. When I'm in there and in the moment, yes, I'm trying to take your head off. I never want to serious damage anyone. Like,
yeah. At the end of the day, it's all about respect, isn't it, as well? So,
and that's what boxing teaches you, that little bit of respect.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I probably already know the answer to this one with what you've said, but were there any nerves ahead of your first pro fight, or was it just another fight to you?
Yeah, I didn't really get nerves, and I think the first pro fight, it was like, it was in Cardiff. It was on a matchroom show, and I fought a journeyman, a good journeyman, one of them journeymen who don't get stopped, he done thing, and I'd been knocking everyone out, and I wanted to put on a show, and I ended up winning on points. One easy, but I was fucking devastated it went. So I'm, but no, it taught me a lot, and it was good there. I literally, I think it was about 2 months after my 18th birthday, I had my first pro fight. I just come back from Benidorm with the boys 2 months earlier. Bleach blonde my hair. So my first pro fight, I got peroxide blonde hair.
Well, no one was ever going to forget you with a look like that, I suppose.
We should have won by knockout, but at least I had the blonde hair.
So talking about lessons learned, in your 4th pro fight, obviously you suffered that loss. For you though, was that sort of a blessing in disguise as you then went undefeated for 8 years?
When I look at it, yes, it was like the fucking world had ended for me at the time. But it was my own fault. Technically, I was 19. I was up against a former world champion kickboxer. So technically, for the little experience I had, that was pretty much too much for me at that time. But I was still smashing him to bits. I literally was smashing him to bits. And I come out the 3rd round, and I just had nothing left. I was absolutely shattered. But then when I look at it, the landscape of what I was doing, I was still going out with the boys. There's a picture of me the night before the fight in town. I weren't drinking, but I was out. I wasn't living the life, and even though he was too experienced for me at the time, and I still should have won. But just taught me a lesson. I remember going back to the boys' house after. I had some good friends, never left me. Spark up a couple of joints, watch Friday, Austin Powers, just have a laugh. But I was just numb. And I always said to myself, I'll never get like that again. I take the fact of losing. I know I'm not a good loser and stuff like that, but I could accept the fact if someone was better than me. But if it's because of my own stupidity, that's much harder to take.
Yeah, definitely. So I know you're a sort of big advocate of healthy body and healthy mind. In moments like that, how tough mentally do you have to be to overcome them setbacks?
It got to be really tough mentally, just being knocked out live on TV, and your whole world, an 18-year-old kid, your whole world has just collapsed in front of you, or so you think. So I either sit there, dwell on it, and cry, which I probably did. I probably had a tear in my eye after. I didn't speak to no one. But I dwell on it. I probably did for a day, and then once I sobered up, I realised, fuck it, this is what I want. I'm gonna put things right.
Yeah, Yeah, sort of you need those moments, not just in like a boxing career, but in life to really pull you up. Yeah. So as we mentioned, you went undefeated for 8 years, winning the WBU and the WBO Cruiserweight titles. What was your emotions like in those moments, knowing that you've worked towards them?
It was mad for me, because when I turned pro at a young age, you know, where I'm from, Swansea, they never had a world champion before, and you know, people were telling me, you're never going to get anywhere, you've got to have more experience, you're turning professional too young. I didn't fucking listen to anyone. I listened to my dad. My dad knew I was going to be a world champion, and he kept instilling into me every day. So I didn't care. I didn't listen to everyone. And you know, people always ask me what is my greatest achievement in boxing, and they actually think it's winning the world title. And it wasn't. It was winning the world title, but seeing my dad's face because I won the world title, that he wanted it more than me. Don't get me wrong. I love the sport and I'm so proud of what I've done, but he wanted it more than me. And I was so happy for him to see his boy get that world title.
Yeah, definitely. So have you always had those that sort of negative energy come towards you? Because I know you mentioned there in your first pro fight, you were like, don't expect much from Enzo. Have you had that from like the start of your career with outsiders, or?
Yeah, you always get it. You know, they see some youngster coming through. They didn't realize the determination I have. You know, people nowadays think you've got to be a great amateur to have a great pro career. You know, I see people putting fighters down because they haven't got a great amateur career. You're not going to get very far. You don't need it. Don't get me wrong. It helps. It gives you a lot of experience. It gives you things, but you don't need it. You just got to have the main thing for me: train hard, have that will, have that desire, have that self-belief. Let no one tell you you can't do nothing, and you tell yourself you can do everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Be some message.
Yeah, it's all about self-belief. If you haven't got that in yourself, then you can't expect anyone else to have it in you, I suppose.
100%, man. Like I said, you know, just I see kids who haven't really done much in the amateurs, and they're not going to turn pro because they haven't done nothing in the amateurs. But you know, suck it up, get on with it. As you all know, take a spoonful of cement, harden the fuck up, get some work done, and you know, make yourself proud, make yourself proud, make your family proud. You know, you can achieve whatever you want. Absolutely.
So 8 years undefeated, on top of the world, and then you come up against David Haye.
Right. This is where the podcast ends.
No, I mean, at the time, obviously, in the cruiserweight division, it was you and him. You were the two best by far in the world in the division. How tough of an opponent was David Haye?
Right. It's hard for me to say. At his best, he was phenomenal. You know, I could say that. And, you know, some people know, some people don't. And I trained my bollocks off that fight. I literally, you know, I could have had an extra $500,000 on top of my purse if I really haggled and stuff like that. But I didn't care. I just wanted to fight. I wanted to be known as the number one. So I trained very hard, stupidly hard. The week before I done my last spar, I weighed in after my last spar. I weighed 14 stone 3¾ which is spot on for me. That's brilliant. I was ready to go. On a Monday, I went to the press conference in London. For why, I don't know, but I come home the same day. I shouldn't have. I should have just stayed up there. And I caught gastroenteritis, to cut a long story short. And on the way in for the fight, bear in mind I was 14.3 a week before, perfect weight. I weighed 13.10 or 9 with trousers on, 2 phones in my pockets. Frank Warren's wallet, that's a couple of pounds. And I was fucked. I was absolutely fucked. And a couple of people around me seen I was fucked, and I wasn't gonna pull out. And you know, looking now, when then I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna be brave and I'm gonna be this. But in reality, I was fucking stupid. You know, I went through with a fight I shouldn't have been nowhere near a ring. So I was looking for people to pull me out, and no one did. You know, I'd have looked. Frank didn't know. Frank would have pulled me out. I know that. But would I have beat him on a different night? I don't know. I'm not going to say I would have, just because I was ill. I think he was that good. So, but for me to say how good he actually was, it's hard for me to say it because I don't really know, because he beat a shell of a man. To be honest, there's not many in the top 20 that night who couldn't have beat me.
Yeah.
All the boys I beat in the past, I guarantee about 75% of them would have beat me that night.
Right. So with that, knowing what you went through, with obviously your body sort of letting you down in a way, did you ever push for the rematch with Haye?
No. He went straight up the heavyweight. I couldn't do heavyweight, so I knew that was, would have been out the window. I had a couple of fights at heavyweight, and I done all right, but it just wasn't for me.
Yeah, yes. Fighting at a weight that you're not used to and feels unnatural for you, I guess.
Yeah.
So another notable name on your record you mentioned earlier is Roy Jones Jr., obviously one of the greatest of all time. For you, what was it like to share the ring with him?
It was mad how it all come about. There was I think they were looking for. He was on a run. He was I think it was 8 or 9 fights undefeated. The fight before me, he beat a Scouser, Courtney Fry. Done a better job than I did. So they called me out. I had the name. I was an ex-world champion. They wanted the big things of him, and it was just surreal. We went out to Moscow for the press conference. Done the press conference, and then outside we had to go to do like a training montage to promote the fight. And they picked Roy up in a Rolls Royce. And I swear to God, people think I'm lying, right? They picked me up in a 3-wheeler. but I just didn't give a fuck. We get to Moscow for the fight. I was on the pads in a public workout. And when I punch the pads, I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but I just sound different to everyone else. My shots just reverberate around the place. And I think when I started in the pads, they realised, fuck, he haven't come yet to lose, like.
Yeah.
So we done the medicals and stuff like that. And I got to tell you about the medical, because in Britain, medical before the fight, they've got all the medicals from the brain scan, stuff like that, but they give you a thorough check check your heart, check your breathing, check your hands, check behind your ears, check your throat, and literally give you a good once over. In Russia, he sat me down. He said, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah, good." He said, "Well, good luck tomorrow." So we went to the weigh-in. We weighed in. I shook his hand. He tried to pull me towards him. I'm physically very strong, so I pulled him towards me. And I said, "It's an absolute honour to fight you tomorrow." I said, "But I will knock you out." And he laughed. I said, "Look, you've made a big mistake." I said, "I will knock you out." And that's the story tells itself.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
You know what? It's not the first time we've heard a similar story about the sort of medical side in Russia. So it's they're a different breed over there, aren't they?
Bonkers, mate.
What was the decision behind the fight being in Russia? Obviously, yourself being a former world champ, Roy Jones Jr. being who he is, like, Russia seems a really odd place for the fight.
No, apparently, they give him Russian citizenship, so it's a lot of money out in Russia. So I think I don't know. They must have been paying him to be a Russian ambassador or something like that. But I remember sitting there at the press conference and he's saying that they treat me so well. I'm gonna move over here with my family, and I'm thinking, we get it now. I said, you come from Florida, sunshine all year. You come to Moscow, one of the most racist countries on the fucking planet, in minus 20 degrees snow. No way you doing this for anything other than money, like.
Yes, possibly makes sense.
Do you think with that then, his medical might have went different to yours, or do you think they give him the same sort of? Yeah,
they probably made him. They probably give him a good once over, make sure he's 100%. He didn't give a fuck. Like
they just made sure you turned up, and that was it.
Pretty much.
So we know you've got close relationship with Joe Calzaghe. You must have some crazy stories about like traveling and training with him over the years.
Yeah, we got loads of stories. Me and Joe. I think I leave it for my book half and stuff. And I remember I said one last night. I tweeted something last night, and we was in Vegas, and he was just about to fight Hopkins, and they come in. They said, "Joe, you ready?" So I said, "Right, there we go." Now he's all wrapped up, he's all gloved up, taped up. Just as he's walking out, he said, "Fuck, I got to have a piss. I got to have a piss." So Enzo Calzaghe looked at me and he said, I said, what are you looking at? He said, who was his best mate? I said, who was his fucking father? You've touched it before. I don't touch it. But, you know, it was just some mad stories, and with me and Joe and his father as well. I remember HBO come down once, and they were filming Joe for his fight with Hopkins, I think it was. And he offered him a cup of tea. So I goes in to make him a cup of tea, because I was tea boy, and the milk was off by about 10 days. Oh. So I said to Enzo, I said, look, you can't give him that, man. He went, fuck him, he said. So I said, well, I'm not making it. So I sat in the room, I watched him make it, and he made the teas. And as he poured the milk in the teas, you could see it clumping. And fair play to the HBO staff. They didn't say a fucking word.
So what happened after it? Did he need to go to the toilet before the other side?
I just shot out there before something happened. I did. I was having no connection to death or anything like
that. Lovely. Daisy. So we know you're always in the gym still. Is there anyone we should be keeping an eye out for in the next 3 to 4 years?
Probably not 3 to 4 years. Most of my boys are young, but I got some killers up there. I'm not going to mention no names because half of them are all big-headed as it is. But they are. I got a good squad. We have a laugh. They train very hard, and people think I rule with an iron fist, and I far from it. I like the boys to have a laugh. I like to have a little bit of banter. If you hear some of the stuff they call each other, it's unbelievable. But they've got to be so close to call each other these names without getting offended. And to me, they're trying to ban all that in sport. And for me, that's how I grew up. I think it breeds you as young men, be able to take a joke, to take a bit of banter, and knowing what banter is, and knowing what a joke is, and knowing what a friendly back and forth is, rather than some horrible fucker calling you something. All my boys are really close. Literally, went to a boxing show before, and I got 2 boys, and they were calling each other what a dog wouldn't lick. And you had other teams looking at me thinking, how can you let that go on? And I just said, look, do you know how close these boys are to be able to say that to each other without taking any offence whatsoever? And that's the way I am with the boys. Even the youngsters, they have a good. They know what I want. They got to get things done right, but they can have a laugh, they can have a joke as long as it's done, and make it enjoyable for them.
Yeah, I love that, because especially these days, people don't understand banter anymore. They think everything that's said is just
they're ruling it out. And to be honest, I went to the coaching to get my coaching badge, and some of the stuff they were saying, it was like, oh my god, like it was just bonkers. It was like if a kid didn't like doing something, what would I do? They asked. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, what's your warm up? I said, well, I got a hill by the gym, it's 2.5 miles up, really inclined. I said, they're up there. He said, what would you do if one of them didn't like it? I said, well, I'll ask if one of them got any injuries, a bad ankle, or anything like that. I said, if they haven't, they're going up the hill. Yeah. He said, you can't do that. I said, why? He said, well, if I don't like it, you have to offer them skipping. I went, like, fuck, I would. But I wouldn't. Yeah. It made who I am. It's, boxing's an hard, tough sport. Oh, right, you're going for a run, boys. Oh, I don't like running. Okay, boy, you have a little skip. Yeah. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
No, you're not going to get anywhere without putting the hard work in, are you? You've just got to suck it up.
I tell you a story about the gym now, and this is brilliant. My boys are so good. We had this boy, Alex, the Polish powerhouse, we call him. And he'd only just come about 2 weeks. And he went for a run with the boys. It was about a 3-mile run. So obviously I didn't expect him to be back at the same time with the boys. I just wanted him to get it done, just put the effort in. But he come back about 35, 40 minutes after all the boys. So he come back, and I said, where have you been? He went, oh, I was just tired. He said, I struggled. I said, what's that on your top? He had a little mark on his top. He said, I can't lie, Enz. I stopped in a chippy for gravy sauce.
Needed that bit of extra fuel to get the last few miles.
What can I say? At least he told me the truth.
Yeah. You got to admire the honesty. You say about people not being able to take banter and stuff like that. No. you're always on Twitter calling out the Melvins.
You know what a Melvin is, don't you?
No, I actually don't, to be honest.
It's another word for cunt. So when but I can't get banned from it. So, so I thought I'd make something up because there are some fucking idiots on there.
Oh yeah,
some idiots on there. It's some fighters that I am close to. They get a lot of abuse. I get a little bit, but I don't get a lot. I'm thick-skinned, but I know some fighters who I'm close to, and they get little rival cliques and gangs. They gang up on them and fucking call them whatever. And I'm thinking, fucking hell, you've done nothing with your life, and you're flagging these people off. So it's like, it's just some idiots out there. I love Twitter. It's nice to talk to people. It's nice to interact with fans who followed you for years. But some absolute whoppers on it.
Yeah, it's shite you've got to deal with, isn't it? But you're a smart man. You've changed the definition of cunt, so the algorithm. It's all about having a laugh. Take things too serious. I put a post up on something, and I guaranteed you have some idiot trying to be such a knight in shining armor, and I'm thinking, what are they doing? Like,
yeah. Always, like I said, trying to play the hero, aren't they? Trying to protect everyone for that no one asked for.
I posted a post yesterday about some guy dapper laughs. Some girl flashed a text to some boys in the subway, and he made out that if a man done it, he'd get prosecuted, but a woman get away. So I said, joking, he's got a point. Oh my God, the amount of America. And the worst thing was, I follow Ice-T, and Ice-T follows me. So he liked it. And then all his American fans jumped on it, doesn't get sarcasm, doesn't get jokes. And, well, it's not the same thing. And they write to me like 4 or 5 tweets in one trying to explain why it's different. I'm like, I don't care. It's a fucking joke. Like,
yeah, it's like there's laws around banter. It's banter. You know what I mean?
It's like when I put out a tweet a couple of years ago. I'm going to tell a picture of me and Roy Jones, obviously my hand in the air, and I said, I'm going to tell my kids that's a prime Roy Jones. Oh, the amount of Americans. He wanted his prime, mate. I know, like.
That's it. They don't get it. No one's got a sense of humour like the Brits, and they just don't understand it.
It's ridiculous.
It's crazy. So you were in Cardiff at the weekend, obviously for the Eubank Williams fight. Eubank obviously won quite decisively. Do you think he was showboating a lot during the fight? I know there was a lot of bad blood between them. Do you think he was disrespectful of him?
I don't know. The first 5 rounds, he was phenomenal. He looked phenomenal. But you've got to remember those, especially the first one, when Liam got dropped, Liam was actually winning the rounds. Yeah. So Liam was in the fight, and what Liam was doing, he was lunging in. And when he was lunging in, Eubank was countering him, coming in, timing his shots. I thought Eubank Jr. was brilliant for the first 5 rounds. I thought he was absolutely brilliant, best I'd seen him. But then Liam changed things up. And when I mean change things up, he just changed the way he entered the space. So rather than lunging in, rather than Eubank seeing everything he was doing, he sort of threw a little feint. He threw a little movement with his foot. He moved his head a little bit just to make Eubank put him off and stop him getting countered and coming in. So I thought it was great by Williams to do that. And then for me, Eubank seemed to just take his foot off the gas. I didn't know whether he thought he was too far in front. But Liam clawed his way back into the fight. He got himself back in the fight. He did. He weren't winning. He wasn't coming close to winning. But he closed his way and made a thing. So it makes you think, if he didn't get caught in our first round, which obviously he did, so you can't go back in it, it could have been a different fight. But for those first 5 rounds, I thought Eubank Jr. was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, the way he was timing his shots, as you say, the fact that I think 3 of the 4 times he dropped them with jabs, which just goes to show it's all about precision. Timing
and position.
So yeah, he looked great. Do you think there was a bit of disrespect there from Eubank at all with all the showboating, or do you think that was just him making a point?
I don't think he was actually showboating that much. I just think he took his foot off the gas. He moved. He made Liam chase. Don't think he ran out of ideas, but I think the plan was to catch Liam lunging in, and Liam stopped lunging in. He sort of, like I said, he changed his way of entry. So I think he was just making Liam chase him, which he did. He didn't cut the ring off much. That's something he got to work on. But no, I wouldn't say too much showboating. It was bad blood between the two of them. I think Liam said a few things which Junior took offence to, and rightfully so. And you know, I just think he took his foot off the gas and he allowed Liam back into the fight. He says that he could have stopped him whenever he wanted. I heard that after, and I just think that's a little bull. Because if you want to stop someone, you stop someone.
Yeah, definitely.
Also on the card was Claressa Shields, obviously the self-proclaimed GOAT. What did you make of her performance?
To be honest, right, I think she's brilliant. I really do. And you know, fair play to her. She commented yesterday. She said something about the commentator was amazing and stuff like that. But she actually thought I was Carl Frampton.
Seen that on Twitter, yeah.
So, but what I did, you can see why she's so good. Her angles are amazing. Her balance is amazing. Her reaction and movements amazing. But she's not, and I said on the night, she's not a natural finisher. And by that I mean when she hits hard enough to gain you respect. She hits hard enough to hurt you. But when I mean natural finisher, when she had her hurt, she smothered her shots. She fell in. She didn't pick. She didn't give herself space, and that's just an unnatural finisher. Me, when I hurt someone, I finish them. I knew which way to step back. I knew how much distance to give myself. I had a little lock. I threw, rather than throwing 20 shots, I throw 3 or 4, but I know all 3 or 4 would land. And that's just me growing up as being a natural finisher. So, you know, that's the only downside I can see that she needs to work on. I think she's an exceptional athlete. You know, going into MMA as well and trying her luck at that. You know, she never said she was going to win anything, but she wanted to try, and she did. And she is a great athlete. And you know, it's going to be a hard fight against Savannah Marshall as well. But yeah. Savannah's going to take care of her job on the 12th.
Yeah, that's it. I think there's definitely a bit of a grudge match there, especially with the sort of post-fight showdown that they had back and forth.
I was
gave me a bit of a throwback to like 90s boxing to me. That you don't get much of that anymore.
It was good. It was good, and you know, you could see the difference between something set up and you see the difference in two people that hate each other. Yeah, and I just think Savannah just gets under Clarissa's skin. I think because of that win in the amateurs, I think Clarissa just holds on to it. I think Clarissa holds on to it more than Savannah does as a win, because I think she struggles to come to terms with she actually got beat, and because it's Savannah, it's eating her alive. So I think she can't wait to try and put things right.
Do you think that can work against her, like sort of holding that grudge?
Nah, it depends. Like I said, she's not a natural finisher. She should know she's not a natural finisher. You know, she's gonna come up with a game plan. Her game plan surely can't be to stand toe to toe with Savannah, because that'll be Savannah's game, because that extra punch power. So I think she's smart enough to go in there and do a proper job.
Yeah.
So we've seen an interview of yourself a few months back saying you were in the best shape of your life. You were feeling really good, and that you weren't ruling out a comeback. Is that something that you still think about? Or
it's gone now, mate. Back in July, I was in the greatest shape I've been in for the last 10 years. I've been sparring. I was this, I was that. I was ready to go. I had an offer to train Ebony Bridges for her fight. A week before that, I come down with COVID. Recovered. But I knew something was wrong. It'd been something for months and months. It was eating at me, and I weren't feeling great. And I won't go into too much detail, but mid-November, I went into hospital. Stayed in there for 4 weeks to get me right. It was something due to COVID, but it wasn't COVID. And it could have been anything, which brought something out. And they promised me I'd get back to normal. It's going to take about 6 months to get back to shape, and it probably could take me a year to get back to fighting shape. But by that time, I'm 42. You know, they said that I'd never be able to train to the levels I used to, but I'd get very close. But then I'm thinking to myself, I'm 42, so I don't expect to get back to the levels I used to. But that would have been amazing. Sorry, boys, I said a missed call or someone. So, you know, it would have been amazing to fight again. but I can't dwell on it. I can't. So, you know, I'll do other things. I love training the boys. You know, people love my commentary on the sports. Maybe that's something more I can do. So, no, I got plenty to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So we know you're a big MMA fan too. What was your first experience watching that?
I think my first experience was, kids don't know about this now, but you lot do, to go up my local video shop, and the guy, he said, I got this new thing for you, and it was UFC 1. So I watched that. Then I started getting into Pride. I fucking love Pride in the soccer. They were my heroes, you know, Fedor, Vanderlei, Rampage, Sakuraba, Royce Gracie, Enzo Gracie, who had some absolute killers. Who had Coleman, Mark Kerr, Goodridge, Randleman. You know, see, I rattle them all off. I just absolutely love the Pride, and you know, I just followed the both, and you know, it's a wicked sport.
Yeah,
so enjoyable.
You've got a couple of good scouts there at the moment as well, haven't you?
Yeah. Got a few.
Looking good for Liverpool at the moment.
Yeah, it is. Marley's leading the way.
Absolutely. So UFC heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou, he said after his last fight that he's looking to move into boxing before he retires. Everyone knows he's got the power. How do you see, from what you've seen of him, how do you see him faring in the boxing ring?
Has he got the power? McGregor had the power. The power transition is different. And to be honest, I seen an interview. Who was it? Tom Aspinall, and he mentioned the same. It's just totally different. And you know, in Ghana, he's talking about Fury. You know, if you put him in with someone top 50, maybe top 100, you know, put him in with a journeyman who knows how to survive. I'm telling you now, his power won't do nothing. And people don't realize that. They see these journeymen with 100 fights and 5 wins. They're a lot better than what their record says. And if they want to, they turn it on. So I admire him, and I think it could be a couple of good, entertaining fights he could be in. But as for him winning a title of any shape, form whatsoever, that's a no. Same as what it would be if any of the top heavyweights went into MMA. I think out of all of them, I think Fury would have the better chance, the transition, just because of the way he moves, the way he doesn't set himself. Obviously, he's done a bit of training before with Darren Till.
Yeah. I want to ask you then. So with that, you mentioned about the power and not transition, it being different. When you look at someone like Anderson Silva, then who's not really renowned for his power, he's more his speed. Obviously, we've seen him be successful against Chavez Jr. Do you think with how he's doing, he can go far in boxing, or?
No, you're talking Chavez Jr., who didn't train and taking boxing seriously for years. Anderson Silva's type of style would be okay for boxing, but you know, he's like maybe 10 years earlier he might try and dedicate himself fully. Maybe so. We don't know. But you know, people are reading too much into the Chavez Jr. thing. It's like I'm reading about Jake. I read about Jake Paul wanting to fight Chavez Jr. and people said that, you know, he lost to Anderson Silva. And I said, look, you compare Jake Paul, who's been a novice for 2 years, against Anderson Silva, who, not being a boxer, but he competed in combat sports for 20 odd years.
Yeah.
You know, it's a big difference. And I still reckon Chavez Jr. without training beats Jake Paul as well.
Yeah.
And I got nothing against Jake Paul. I admire his hustle, and I think he's doing great for women's boxing.
for women's boxing, to say, well, yeah. To be honest with you, he's done well with Amanda and Serrano. So
this fight with Katie Taylor and Serrano wouldn't be happening without Jake Paul.
Yeah. So speaking of him, brings us to sort of the next question. Do you think what he's doing for boxing overall is helping or hurting it?
Well, it's helping, because what people don't realize is when he goes to one of his shows, when he has his pay-per-view shows, and he has 1 million subscribers to the fight, those 1 million subscribers aren't boxing fans. They are MMA fans. His YouTube fans, not MMA fans. It is YouTube fans. Now, if he could get 50% of them kids to join a gym properly, and learn out the box and become something else, even though he's done his job. He's brought eyes on women's boxing. And also, I read somewhere the other day, he made 4 million and set it aside. And he's gone around gyms in USA and redeveloped them and give them gloves. And, you know, for me, that's brilliant. You know, people just look to downplay everyone. Look, you asked me if he's going to be a champion. No way whatsoever he's coming close, right? He doesn't come close. But he's getting eyes on the sport. If he can get new kids into boxing, he's getting new kids into boxing. He's trying to redevelop older gyms, rundown gyms, so these kids who've got no life, no schooling, no prospects, they can go to a gym. And for me, yeah, I think he's doing great for boxing.
Well, how do you think he does when he comes up against, obviously the big talk is him coming up against an actual boxer, because he's mostly fought like MMA fighters? How do you see him doing against?
Yeah, let's be honest, he hasn't fought just MMA fighters. He's fought the worst striking MMA fighters.
Yeah.
Ben Askren looked like fucking the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. It was embarrassing. Woodley, athlete. Can't fault him, athlete. Wrestler. Can throw a right hand, but he throws like 4 or 5 around. You know, he knew what he was doing. But what I will say about Jake Paul, he got a good trainer, BJ Flores. And he's doing things right. He's training hard, and he's actually learning the game. So, you could put him in with who would I say MMA beats him striking? And I wouldn't even go high. And Nate Diaz, because Nate Diaz got good boxing skill. Nick Diaz got decent hand boxing skill. No, they're not going to do nothing as boxers, but he'd be good enough to beat Jake Paul, or at least give him a much more competitive fight than Woodley or the Marshmallow Man.
I think Woodley as well kind of goes back to what you were saying about power not really transitioning. We've seen, obviously, Woodley's a wrestler primarily, but we've seen him knock people out in the UFC. It goes to show that, like you're saying, the power doesn't transition over.
Look at McGregor against Mayweather, right? And I'm not going to go too much into it, because we've got McGregor who never boxed before against one arguably the greatest of all time. But McGregor's best chance, because he was a lot bigger, he was a stone heavier. Apparently, he had more power than Floyd had ever seen in his life. Floyd pushed him back, tucked up tight, pushed him back. It was easy to push him back. He manhandled McGregor inside. Now, if I was MMA rules and they were on a clinch, McGregor ragdoll him everywhere, because the foot movement is different, the technique is different. But because it was boxing and he was limited his movements, Mayweather was too strong for him on the inside as well. I think McGregor actually said that. It's just boxing is different. MMA is different. People don't realize that. And I'm a fan of both, and they can coexist. And that fight with McGregor and Mayweather sold so well because McGregor fans thought he was going to beat Mayweather.
Yeah.
Big MMA fans knew he wouldn't beat Mayweather because they are knowledgeable to the sport of boxing. But the actual McGregor fans actually thought, I argue with people all the time. They say, see, if a boxer goes into MMA, what would happen? Look at James Toney against Randy Couture. Randy hammered him. And I said, yeah, look at a 50-year-old Ray Mercer knocking out Tim Sylvia in 9 seconds. It can happen.
Yeah.
Very rare it will happen that someone from boxing will beat an MMA at their sport, or someone from MMA will beat a boxer at their sport. But it can happen. At the top level, no.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously there's not too many Welsh fighters in the UFC, but one that is doing incredible is Jack Shaw. What's your opinion on him, and do you see him being champ soon?
Well, he's kicking everything in front of him, isn't he?
Yeah.
There was a couple of boys who were Brett Johns, the Swansea boys, in there. John Phillips, one of my oldest mates, used to box with me. He was in there. But Jack Shaw, he's riding the wave. He's looking good. I think, is he fighting this weekend?
He's on the London card, March 19th.
For some reason, I thought he was on this weekend. But yeah, he's doing very well, and still a long way to go. But you can't fault what he's doing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So finally, then, to finish it off, there's a lot of great boxing fights to look forward to this year. What's the one that catches your eye? What one are you looking forward to the most?
I'm just hoping. I'm just hoping that the heavyweight gets sorted. I'd like to think Tyson Fury is number one, but I'd like to see him prove it. And you know, you can all say this and say that, but until he fights Usyk or fights Joshua, well Usyk at the moment, but obviously you got to get past Dillian White as well. But it'd be nice to see toward the end of the year who the number one is. But it's some interesting fights coming up. It's a Scouser, Paul Butler. He's got a fight with Casemiro. That's a dangerous fight, but you know, that's one I'm looking forward to. We've got Sonny Edwards. He's shouting out he wants Martinez. That's one I'm looking forward to, because I think Sonny beats him. And ultimately, Errol Spence Jr., Bud Crawford. That would be the fight. It's some great fights out there.
Definitely.
Yeah. The girls as well. The girl fights as well. And you know, I'm looking forward to see Ebony Bridges against Roman for the IBF title. I'm looking forward to see Taylor Serrano. I'm looking for another Scouser, Tasha Jonas, stepping up 3 weights in a couple of weeks' time to try and get a world title, which she deserves another crack at. So some interesting fights. Yeah.
And you've obviously got Kell Brook and Amir Khan, probably about 5 years too late.
Still a good fight.
Still a good fight, definitely. How do you see that one going?
I've always said Brook. I've always said Brook, and you know, I'll still stay with Brook because they both not were what they were. But when I look at it, yes, Crawford stopped Brook. Scintillating performance. But when he beat Khan looked for a way out. And when you're looking for a way out, it's a sign that you haven't got the hunger no more. Because I know 2 or 3 years earlier, Khan would have gone out on his shield. He would have literally fought till he can't fight, but he looked for a way out. And Brock has never been about speed. He's always been about timing. Khan's always been about speed. Speed's the first thing to go.
Yeah.
Still won't put my money on any of them. I just fancy Brock.
Yeah. Should be an interesting fight. Well, Enzo, it's been absolutely fantastic to talk to you. We really appreciate you taking the time today, and it's been brilliant for us. We really appreciate it.
Brilliant, lads. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Take care.
Ciao, boys.